Well, welcome back, guys. This is obviously a change in scenery and a change in direction.
I just want to say you look amazing.
Oh, thanks. You look really good,
Thank
too.
you. If you guys would know how we look like if you are watching this on YouTube.
On YouTube, exactly. So, obviously, if you're seeing this on YouTube, then you have now tapped into the fact that are incorporating video because this is our bonus episode. So, This is kind of a treat. We are very happily at Lens Studio right now in their podcast room. So one, shout out to them. Thank you for having us here and letting us record. And also, for those of you who are looking for a studio to rent different spaces or to even rent this space to record your own podcast, feel free to look them up. Lens Studio HQ on Instagram.
Lensstudio.com or
yeah,
.ca?
Lensstudio.com, I believe. Mark, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that one.
Yo, you put me on the spot.
But yeah, so hit them up, look at them online. They've got different studio spaces to rent for all kinds of things. So whether you're doing like family photos or you've got team pictures that you want to take for your like whatever sports teams that you're on, university teams. Or if you're like us and you want to benefit using the space for your podcast, then it's a great spot.
And the team is amazing. They know what they're doing. Because obviously, if we were taking care of the video situation, it would be a
different story. It's very professional over here. And also, I'd like to take the time to mention that pretty much majority, if not all of the staff are minorities or people of color.
Yes.
So.
And it's Black owned, so.
Period. Anyways.
Segue, is that a word?
Yeah, segueing.
Segueing into the next thing that we wanted to kind of mention quickly. If you see these beautiful outfits that we're both wearing, I styled her, she styled me.
Yes, that was the whole point of our segment, or not our segment, but just the episode. We wanted to make it special for you guys, considering it's the first video episode that we're doing. So, shall we take turns and describe what the
vibe is?
The vibe was?
You can go first.
Okay, well,
because I know you're gonna. I already know.
My whole thing with the way that I decided to style Bernie today was, so here's the thing. Miss Ma'am doesn't really like all that much color. So I did keep her in neutrals. And I know that she likes a good suit, but she's more of like she'll take the more like masculine, like androgynous looking approach a lot of the times with her suiting, and she likes oversized silhouettes. So I wanted to put her into something that looked a little bit more feminine because she's, in her bimbo bag, in her bimbo lifestyle. So I wanted something to reflect that. And I think it looks really good. You guys obviously can't tell the full thing because she's sitting down right now. But when you see the pictures on Instagram
at the Fashion Faux Pas. Whoa.
Wow. That was a great plug. At the Fashion Faux Pas podcast. Then you'll see the full fit. But yeah, I wanted her to look, to just tap into her divine feminine for the silhouette of this look, while also being true to the colors of the podcast logo, obviously. And then obviously the red lip was a nice little touch that I wanted to include.
I thought you were gonna drag me a little bit more.
No, I decided to be nice today.
As for Yasmin, she's wearing a green suit. I don't think I've ever seen her in like forest green.
It's not a color that I wear often at all, actually. Ever since I've started dyeing my hair, I've like strayed away from like greens a lot of the time.
She doesn't wear buns a lot. She doesn't wear her hair up a lot, but I really like her with her hair up. And she doesn't wear lipstick a lot.
No, not anymore.
And
this whole outfit is a very rare occurrence for me to like be appearing like this publicly or like on camera. So enjoy it while you can.
I think she looked good.
Thanks.
Anyways, now that we've made all of announcements.
Yes.
The outfits are from Renewed.
From Renewed. Shout out Ingrid. We love you. Thank you for, having us all the time as much as you can. And for basically having us be like your second little daughters.
Yes. Okay, segue to today's topic. We're talking about mental health and being creative, and what does that look like, and how this industry has train wrecked our mental health.
How it's basically caused all the spirals a lot of the time, I guess you could say. Yeah. Or like, it's been the trigger for a lot of things, honestly. But I guess I'll start by like just kind of tapping into the fact that, like, I think the biggest thing that most creatives will notice of this whole industry, like, having some sort of effect on our mental health is just, like, the amount of pressure that there is to be very socially present, social media present specifically. And I've noticed this affecting me personally a lot because I've almost had, like, I explained this to you already, but I've had, like, this weird ick about just posting and being online, period, which is very weird for me to say out loud. But, or like say, like, besides like just you listening. And it's odd because, like, when I first got into the industry and I first started being like way more consistent with my posting and like way more into it in general, when I first started, I want to say like 2017, and I started like developing an aesthetic and like branding myself a certain way, and I was excited to take content, I was excited to post, and I feel like I had things to post about. And funny enough, like at the period of time in my career where I feel like I'm doing the most work, I'm like less inclined to basically post content that's not related to my work. Like, I'm very big on stories right now of like a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and, you know, making certain reels here and there of like a compilation of BTS, and I've been having fun with them on TikTok too. But when it comes to like just static images that have nothing to do with people that I've styled or work that I've done, like if it's just like me and like me trying to be like a fashion blogger or like whatever, like I've completely strayed away from that. And I'm just like, I get so stressed out, like wanting to take these photos or even figuring out like content ideas on what I should be taking and how I should style myself and where I should shoot the photos and what I should caption it. Is it going to fit my feed? Is it going to, like, am I not going to be picky enough about the way it looks to upload it? And I've almost like detached myself from like the organic mindset that I had with posting that kind of content, like maybe like 2 years ago or something. I want to say like pre-pandemic, but even in 2020, I was pretty like on the ball about like how organic my feed was, and it was really just like you would see me more so than my work. But yeah, now anytime, like, you literally can't pull me out to like take like an outfit photo anymore, or like even a cute like selfie that's like not going to be on stories. Like I get so stressed out now.
Why do you think you get so stressed out about that?
I think it's just like because I'm so proud and so impressed by like my photos or my content that I get with work and with my behind the scenes stuff, or just the things that I've been a part of, the projects I've been a part of. Like they're just so like high quality and they're very like legitimate. And I'm like, I feel like my content when it comes to just me and what I have of reflecting myself and my organic lifestyle on my feed should also match that. But I can't seem to bring myself to do that anymore. So I'm like, if it doesn't flow, then I just won't post it at all.
That's fair. I think I feel like I'm listening to you.
No, you're good.
Okay. I feel like I was definitely like that for a bit too, where I obviously I had the ick. I still do. I feel like, honestly, like being on social media and like I just don't think it's natural for us to like take our phone and be like, hey guys, look what I'm doing today. Like, it's so unnatural. I just feel like you almost have to train your brain to like do that.
To be wired that way. I genuinely don't know how like really successful like YouTube vloggers, like lifestyle bloggers and stuff, I don't know how they do it.
But like, have you noticed like how a lot of them are now not as active online? And it makes sense to me because like it's just, first of all, it's icky. Like, it's so cringy.
It is. To have to be pulling a camera out when you're around people, or like just doing the simplest of things. Like, I get it. Like from a viewer's point of view, like it is interesting to see what you're doing in your day, or like what's going on behind the scenes with like other things that you do. But also, like, who really cares all that much?
Yeah,
this might be really offensive like, to people who actually do YouTube.
But it's like, because people don't care that much, you should post.
True. That is true.
But it's also like, well, people don't care enough, so why should I post that thing? It's like
that's it. It's the dilemma that a lot of us are in, I feel like.
But I feel like, yeah, like a lot of people who are active online and who are doing so many different things, they're focusing, or they're kind of like straying away from being online and they're trying to, you know, do other things, like
find different platforms.
Yeah, or just like have different ventures. And I think like a lot of, even like Kaiza, when I talked to her with her episode, she mentioned like she doesn't obviously want to be just a blogger. Like she wants to have other ventures and venues and things, which is totally fine. Same thing with Debbie.
She wants to expand her network, which is normal for someone like who has such an online presence like she does right now.
So it makes sense. But I definitely feel like there is a pressure for creatives to like live online, and there's definitely like a detriment that's happened with like social media and how everything is seen as content.
Mm-hmm.
As much as like, yeah, everything is content and like people are just interested in the most stupid things. Like I could post my coffee and like people are like, oh, like what'd you put in it? Like people just like stupid shit. Not that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But like for someone who's like a painter or someone who is a photographer, like they're not taking pictures every single day. They're not batching content. Like that does not exist.
They're really not. That's not
so
the case.
It's like there's like a weird pressure of having to be online all the time to be able to like gain an audience or to get opportunities and things like that. And I feel like it's even more of a pressure because if you're not someone who has already some sort of like network, or if you didn't go to school, because obviously you can build a network through school with like internships and your profs and whatever.
That's definitely how I built mine when I started.
Yeah, so it's kind of like be online or already kind of be in the industry, because I know a lot of people who are doing it full time and they transition from,
they have like no online presence.
Yeah,
like
oh my god,
there are really successful stylists that I have worked with and that I know who like don't post for like months. Like I rarely
just post
see
their dogs
anything.
and their cats, which I love,
and their kids, and I'm like, that's what I want to get to, like eventually, you know what I mean? Like I don't need people to be like, I want to get to a point where like I don't have to post my work for you to know that I'm working, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
you know. But then again, like I get in this in between where I'm like, I want to share what I'm doing and like, you know, take the really pretty aesthetic photos and stuff. But then at the same time, I'll get in these moments where I'm like, I just want to turn my whole main page into just my work and like not even bother to like have a presence like,
dude, you should,
of myself.
If that's what you want to do, you should.
I'm thinking about it, but at the same time, I'm like, I've built pretty much my entire following on me and not my work. And then when I made my style account, my following crawled over to that account. So the people who cared to see the work went over to that account. And same idea when we started the podcast, the people who cared about our line of work and like this new venture that we're taking have carried on to that account as well. So I'm just like, I feel like if I completely transitioned my main to just like a business page or just a styling page, I feel like I'm gonna lose those numbers. But at the same, like I know their numbers aren't everything. However, like when you're working in creative and when you're working in social, they do kind of matter. Yeah. So
the point is, posting online is cringy, and I feel like honestly, part of the guilt that people feel with like not having an online presence just comes from capitalism, my favorite topic in the world. Because just already naturally we just are made to be workers and people who work in like different industries.
Yeah.
So when we're not showing that we're working, there's a sense of guilt, and I think that transition into obviously like smaller great things like social media. And even like myself, like if I'm not doing any work, like right now I'm not really doing or focusing on styling, and obviously there's like a little bit guilt because I'm like, yo,
same here,
what
honestly.
am I doing?
Yeah, because pretty much all of our energy has gone to the podcast in like the last month.
Yeah.
But that's also because we literally just launched. Well, by the time that you guys are seeing this, we haven't, like, it's been a while.
Yeah.
But we're pre-recording this, obviously, so this is very new.
Yeah.
And this is very fresh, and it's going well.
It is. We hit 2 milestones so far.
We have. Do you want to share those milestones that we've hit so far?
Nah.
Because by the time that this is live and this is uploaded, we will have hit probably like 4 or 5 more milestones at this point.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm speaking into existence right now.
Another thing too with the whole like mental health situation or just existing online is obviously comparison. Wow, I can't talk. Comparison.
Let's talk about that, child.
I feel like since I've been in my bimbo bag,
yeah, you haven't been on that wave, and I aspire to get to that point because that's just not been me right now.
Because I'm just like, this is also why I'm really not like, I don't believe in gatekeeping, or at least like for our line of work, because our line of work is mainly about creativity and less about like technique per se. Like for example, if you're like a makeup artist or hairstylist, like a lot of your work is based on like more techniques and to achieve
training.
Yeah. Whereas like styling is a lot more around like creativity and like
self-taught, literally finding your own groove.
And just like, you know, being in the process, right? So like knowing that and understanding that, like for one, I shouldn't be comparing myself to people who are not stylists, because I feel like sometimes we'll look at other industries and be like, oh, like why aren't I in this level of success as this musician or this? But it's like they're also not even playing on the same field as you to begin with.
Yeah.
And then also like at the end of the day, like because creativity, that's not something that's thought. Like it's either you have it or you don't.
It's truthfully. I forget that sometimes.
No one is going to do what you do.
No.
I literally cannot do what you do.
No, and I can't do what you do either.
So why are we comparing ourselves?
I don't know. It's such a toxic trait, and I feel like it's a drug that was like created by, I don't even know if I would blame it on socials or if I would blame it on capitalism as a whole. Maybe.
I don't know.
I asked myself that question. I'm like, where does like the tendency in itself to just naturally do that as a human instinct even come from? Or like, what is it? Like, what triggers it for most people?
I don't know if I would say it's a natural human instinct. I think it would.
Because when you're comparing yourself to someone, it's almost like that's like the first like layer of like being envious or jealous of somebody's success.
Well, you know? I think for a lot of it, it's probably like upbringing. Like if you have a lot of siblings, maybe you're being compared to your
or if you
siblings.
Had parents that would put a lot of pressure on you to succeed.
Or like even outside of siblings, there are parents who will compare their kids to other people's kids. You know? Did I trigger you?
Those are. Well, no, my parents never did that, but there are a lot of parents, and I feel like a lot of immigrant parents tend to do this a lot of the time too. That you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like I feel like that's a thing sometimes. Well, not necessarily with every aspect, but like school-wise, yes. If like let's say like you've got parents who are like family friends within like the same high school that like you go to or whatever, I don't know, like a friend that you grew up with, like she also has immigrant parents just as you do, and like growing up, it's like, oh, like, well, you know, she's getting straight A's in this course or whatever, but oh, she's doing really well on this sports team and she's like become MVP, blah, blah, blah. Like they want the best for their kids so bad that when they see, you know, other parents who have the same mindset and who want to bring up their kids so much, are like, oh, but they have to be even better kind of thing. Like like my kid represents me, therefore they can't fail. You know what I mean?
The whole my kid represent me thing, I'm triggered.
That is just like, again, like my parents weren't so adamant on that kind of thing, but my grandparents were more so like that because they're way more old school. Like they're first gen. My parents are second generation. So like that was very much a thing where like my grandfather, like from like literally like youth all the way up to now, is like very adamant on like you need to be like the absolute success story of like this family for like the generation that you're in right now, because I'm the first grandkid and I'm the only girl. So, and like for where he like grew up in Congo, or where he was raised, was a community and a neighborhood that was une matriarchie, I think that's what it's called. But basically like the whole city, it was a matriarch, so like the whole city and the whole like town was ran by women. So he's always been a girl's man. Like that's just how he is, and he values like and just speaks so highly of women and wants them to be like the best. Like he really truly believes that like they're a force to be reckoned with and they rule this entire earth. So like
Okay, feminism.
Yeah, like, very rare just to be speaking about that of sorry, I was gonna say 89, a 91-year-old Congolese man.
Yeah,
like that's very rare.
If you know, you know.
It's extremely rare, but like because he is that way, and you know he was, I guess, or he considered himself very lucky or very blessed to, you know, bring 2 daughters into the world and then a granddaughter into the world, or see a granddaughter be brought into the world. He was like, okay, like this, like almost like the legacy has to continue kind of thing. Like, you know what I mean? And apart from my dad, I'm like the only kid so far who has, or the only like offspring of his who has graduated college and finished a degree. So that was already one thing that was like huge for him. And then now it's kind of just like whatever you do now, like represent me, us, this family well. Because like you're the example now. You're leading the example for everyone else who's coming afterwards. You for the kids. So
that's a lot of pressure, girl.
It's a lot of pressure, but I tell myself, I'm like, you know what? Like I had to come to a point where in the beginning, when I even like voiced to my grandparents that I was going to get in the creative industry and that's what I wanted to do full time. Like my grandmother was very like, she was kind of like oblivious to the idea. And she was like, I don't know if I really believe you kind of thing. My grandfather knew that I was serious, but he was like, no. He was like, it's a phase. Like, he's like, c'est juste pour passer le temps, blah, 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 whatever. He's like, ça va pas te porter de l'argent, whatever. Like, it's not going to put you food on the table, basically.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I mean, y'all aren't paying for my schooling, so.
Also, just something just came up when you were talking. I feel like, especially in the creative industry, it's so rare to... It's not that it's rare, but it's just we don't see it often. See people who are not like either struggling artists or like fucking Beyonce level like talented.
There's like
famous.
No in between.
Like there's no in between. But
there's
like,
either you're a success story or you're still
like struggling.
Yeah, like you're starting from the ground up and you're still kind of at the ground.
But there's so many artists who are, whether they're in like in the music industry, fashion, whatever, it doesn't matter where they are at, who are doing it full time and they're literally like. They're good. Like, and I feel like I wish that I saw that more. And a lot of the times when I see it, it's usually people more in the music side or in like maybe the art world. Like it's rare to see that. Like
I feel like it's like that because when you're in music or like in dance, for example, or in acting, like your whole career is basically like you are your own brand. So of course you're going to be extra present on socials because people need to see you at all times. But if you do a line of work where, you know, you're a stylist or a creative director like us, or you're a videographer, you're a photographer, you work in production, then like you kind of don't really see the point necessarily in putting emphasis on like you being present as much.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I think like
anyway.
I definitely wish to have seen more people who are just able to live off of their craft, specifically more like behind the camera, because I feel like it would have kind of gave you like this idea that like, okay, like I can actually like be able to do this for real.
I feel like it's more difficult in general, but also I feel like it's one of two things. It's usually like you don't necessarily see those as much, or see like you really see those stories as much because either one, these people in general are very low key and like don't really feel the need to kind of share the fact that they're comfortable and that's like how they're living, or they're working for the wrong kind of companies that are just like underpaying them for the kinds of job that they have.
What do you mean?
I don't know. Like I feel like there are some like production companies in general, and I don't know any off the top of my head, but like, you know, when you look at like jobs that are a part of like these bigger budget movies and stuff where you have like roles like a director of photography or a sound assistant or like just like people who control lighting and stuff like that. Again, like you don't, unless you actually like stay at the end of like a show or the end of a movie to like read these kinds of credits, like people don't really know who these people are all that much, or unless you're in the industry. And I feel like the people who occupy those jobs kind of like being in the shadows in that way.
Yeah.
Like they don't really care to be that present like online or like in life really, because their like fulfillment comes from seeing the final product of like having been part of that team, having been part of that craft. But again, like that kind of goes back to what I was saying, to where there are people who work for these companies, works for these production houses and stuff like Warner Brothers and whatever, who might be doing really well and living a very comfortable lifestyle, and like just they can live off of that and not have other side hustles. But there might be other circumstances where they're getting underpaid and they're not like they're not really being compensated enough for the kind of work that they put in. You know?
No, that's fair.
That's just a hunch, though. I could be completely like off, you know, and like maybe like these roles like do get paid like way more than we'll ever make, and I'll never know. But
yeah. No, that makes sense. I think, yeah. I just thought about, okay, I met this drummer. He makes music.
Okay.
I think he plays drums, and he also I think he also produces music. Anyways, met him, such a cool guy. We had a conversation, whatever, and we ended up following each other on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was the Kanye documentary that came out.
Yeah.
He was on it. I don't know what the hell he was doing on that damn documentary.
This is someone you met here?
I met because they were traveling from the US coming to here.
Okay.
And I saw that, I was like, what the hell? But it's like, if you see what he posts online, he'll post like sometimes his little music things, and then he'll post like his tea and like just like random stuff. You would never know.
Like these people are so
you would
like
never know.
They're so just like off the radar.
I was so
like very humble.
I was like, what? I had to rewatch it a couple times to see like if I was like, am I tripping? But it's kind of like the same thing with styling. I think I had told you that I was like stalking all these stylists and things like that online. I was like seeing them work with. They were working jobs that I want to work with. Exactly. That I want to work on.
Big brands, bigger shoots, like.
And I was like, who are these people? And I was looking them up. I was like, wait. They're not here. They don't exist.
Like I didn't like. There are people that I had to dig to find that like I've either worked, like I've been on sets with them before because they were either a stylist for me for a shoot that I was modeling in, or like people that I've assisted in the past too. Like, okay, the woman that I told you about that I assisted for briefly for Elle Quebec or Elle Canada, both. But like I was supposed to have a longer internship with her and everything. COVID happened, fucked that up for me. We don't talk about it because then I just start getting emotional. But I adored her, and I thought that she was such a cool person, and I still do. And like she was getting credited, you know, for the work that she was doing, because she was basically like the producing coordinator, or like the producer of whatever the shoot was, whether it was like an editorial spread or like a cover or whatnot, right? But all Elle Canada, Elle Quebec, doing things that I aspired to do, which is why I was interning for her at the time. And then I like go to, you know, like get her on socials after and everything to like stay in contact with her. And I'm like, she really like doesn't post that much about her work like all the time. Or like she's just like if you didn't know what she did for a living, like you would think like she's just like you're like your girl next door kind of thing. And I was just like I don't know. Like it was almost shocking, but at the same time I was like, that's kind of inspiring in a way.
Yeah.
You know? Because it's just like, I feel like the people who have, okay, this is the epiphany that I've come to at this point in the podcast now that we've been talking about this back and forth. But I feel like the people who have, quote unquote, made it with the behind the scenes jobs. So in production, in styling, in photography, videography, you know, sound, whatever, right? All the BTS people. I feel like when they've made it at a certain point in their career, they will sort of naturally pull back and not feel the need to share and to really like sort of be loud about what they do.
Because they don't have to.
They don't have to, because they're already getting sustainable income, or like they're getting work, because at this point they've grown to a point in their career where like they don't need to be networking on socials anymore because they've built up their network, and now it's just like a word of mouth situation, or like they've got friends, like they just know, you know. Whereas like people like you and me, or other people that we've met like through like work that we've done who are also in production but do different have different roles, they like we're networking the hell out of what we do and our skills and like ourselves because we feel the need that we have to be seen. You know, like we feel like we need to be loud because otherwise who's gonna do it if not us? Like who's gonna push it out or who's gonna like see us if we don't make ourselves visible?
Okay, I don't mean to be a crystal girly. But like
you don't mean to, but you do.
You just made me realize something. Like, you know, like how we talk about like manifestation and things like that, and like if you operate from a place of lack, then that's kind of like what you're kind of attracting. Mm-hmm. Like, do you think that like if you're feeling the need to be seen and heard, that it's just you're always gonna be stuck in that one place? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I just don't know that would be the reality of it. Because
it's kind of like the thing of like...
Elaborate a little more.
Like when you... Okay, essentially like in a lot of like manifestation theories or like spiritual theories, they talk about how when you want something too much, you create a blockage. Because what you're telling the universe is that you're lacking that thing. And you're not operating from a place of abundance, right? So therefore, you're kind of blocking that thing from coming from you.
But then this goes back to what you and I have talked about before in the way that you manifest things. Because there's a whole almost like formula or like science to this, I feel like a lot of the time. Like you can't just outright say, I'm manifesting this or I want this, and then it just comes. That's not how it works. Mm-hmm. And I'm just saying this now confidently because like you've taught me basically like how it functions. Like I didn't know before, so I was basically doing it the wrong way for like a while. But the way that it works and the way that we've talked about it working is not really saying that you want these things because you have to basically behave as if you already have it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You've like you're claiming it as if it's already yours, and also at the same time being grateful for what you already have.
Yeah, that's literally what I'm saying. Because I feel like if you're operating from a space where you're like, oh, I don't have this, like I need this, whatever.
Yeah, like I need or I want.
Yeah, and you're kind of like telling the universe you don't have it type thing.
Then why would they give it to you? Because you don't feel that it's yours, so why should it be granted to you?
Okay, now I'm just kind of like, now that, okay, knowing this, let's just assume this is true.
Yeah.
Which it is, but for the hell of it.
But yeah, for the people who don't really believe in like this kind of stuff or like who are super spiritual with these kinds of things and like feel free to like just not listen to what we're saying at all. But
let's just assume that it's true.
That it's true.
Now, knowing this, how do you navigate being a creative like behind the scenes and trying to make this full time? Because like I've seen a lot of like people who are more on the content creation side, and obviously they're kind of like they have to show face, and a lot of them will be like just act as if you already have the audience that you want, and that's how you'll manifest it. So like even if no one is like listening to you or you don't feel like anyone's listening to you, it doesn't matter because the people will come eventually, which that totally makes sense to me. But more so like if you're someone who's behind the scene or working more on the production side, how does that work or how does that look like? I don't think I have an answer. I don't know if you do. If someone has an answer.
Mark, would this be the point where you kind of chime in?
I wish I had an answer.
Yeah? That's hard.
But do you believe in that stuff? Like manifestation and stuff?
Kind of not. Like,
did you grow up like more religious in a way? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Same here.
Yeah.
I still believe that's a positive mindset that you should have at least, minimum.
I don't think necessarily it's like a positive mindset. It's like I think it's called the law of assumption.
I thought it was law of attraction.
No. There's like the law of assumption is just assuming that it's already yours. Like it's assuming that things will go your way.
Yes.
That's what the whole bimbo thing is about. Okay. It's assuming that shit will go your way.
True.
And they literally do. So like if for example you are, I don't know, like
I have an example of like someone that this has basically worked for them at this point. I just don't want to say any names.
You don't have to say names. I'll probably know who it is.
Yeah. But basically a friend of ours that we know.
Are you talking about Cherie Coco?
God. Anyway, a friend of ours that we know, we've known him for the same amount of time. And we've also been aware of like what his talents are, what he does for work, and where he wanted to be back then and where he's at now. So when I first met him and like he talked about what he wanted to do, what his goals were, et cetera, literally everything that he had said that he wanted to see for himself back then is what he's pretty much achieved at this point now. So like I feel like he's a perfect example of, you know, creating basically his own success story without even realizing it. And it wasn't even a question of like he was necessarily like, you know, outright like manifesting it necessarily, or at least out loud to like people that he would meet and people that he would talk to. But it was more so a question of like, I know that like it, like that's the goal, like that's what I want. I feel like it's gonna happen, like God willing it does, kind of thing. Like that was more so his approach to it. And he's pretty much like got in there at this point. I feel like by the time that this launches, like that's like it will have happened.
Come on now.
Because realistically, like his biggest venture that has yet to happen is supposed to happen in a month from the time that we're recording. So by the time that this is launched, you know, it'll probably have like somewhat, or you know, not somewhat, but it will have had success, at least at a beginner's rate, because it'll be very fresh. But again, like it's just crazy to see, or like to like know people personally, or like that are in our own personal lives that have had those success stories and that have basically like spoken into existence what they have now.
I know so many people like that. I'm just like, teach me your fucking ways.
I know.
It's actually insane. It's actually crazy. And I this is why I feel like the whole manifestation thing is so real. And I feel like I need to be in this bag better. And I feel like we've been manifesting a lot of things for the show.
We've been manifesting a lot when it comes to this podcast. And like I definitely think that like that's just the thing. I think this is the one business venture or the one like creative venture that we have undergone that I'm probably like the most confident in its success. I don't know why, but it's just like, it's like I told you last time, like I just don't see this going wrong. Like, why would it? I don't know. It just, like, even if the people who are like listening in, who have been listening in for the past like whole season and everything, because this is bonus episode, obviously, even if they're not like interested, like necessarily within all the topics, or, you know, it's the same like 100 people or whatever, as long as it keeps being like a consistent thing that people are tuning into all the time, and we keep growing within the podcast with like how we elevate, with like how the content is recorded, the setups that we're doing, like the things that we talk about, the people that we interview, et cetera, how much more authentic we get and organic that we get. I feel like it's just, and also like we have a lot of goals within this and where we want to see ourselves going, and we haven't gotten to the point, and I don't really see us getting to the point where we're ever going to really feel like comfortable, like kind of staying in like a stagnant space. Like we keep wanting to go up from where we're already at, if that makes sense. So I just, for that reason, I do not see this like just plummeting like completely.
It won't. And also, it definitely won't. Like we're putting a lot of intentions with that, and I think like going back to the whole mental health thing, like one thing that's been very important for me is putting intentions in the stuff that I do. There's something called the frequency vibrational chart. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I have not.
Okay, so it's basically a chart of emotion that kind of shows you like the corresponding consciousness level for each of them. There's like suffering, barely living, or something like that, and then there's flow, and then there's like the other one, I forget what it is, but then all of these things correspond to different emotions. So there's like guilt, fear, shame, and they correspond to like one of whatever, and then there's like love, consciousness, or enlightenment, and that corresponds to like another emotion. Anyways, so I actually, at some point, I was really like intrigued by this whole thing. It was like my phone background. It's not anymore, but it was like a good way to kind of be able to kind of see like where I was at mentally and like spiritually. And that kind of like allowed me to be like, okay, I am there today.
Okay. I like had to digest for a second there. Sorry.
I'm there today, and like, what can I do to kind of go up the scale in that chart?
Okay.
So essentially, I'm gonna try to find the chart. Essentially, that's kind of helped me with that and like setting intentions, and I feel like I kind of have this mindset now of like setting intentions with everything that I do.
Yeah.
And
it's very important.
Yeah, and I feel like that's why, at least with us, it's been going so well.
Yeah.
Because, like, guys, literally, we've probably seen each other once in real life.
Okay, so backstory. We met up once IRL before we decided to start this together.
Yeah.
And then ever since we started, besides, like, literally, I think we until recently, we hung out, like, organically once from the time that, like, we started recording
to the time we launched.
We like had one like organic hangout where it just wasn't work related.
Yeah.
Which
and
is
it
crazy.
was with other people.
Yeah. Which is crazy. Like now we've seen each other like quite a bit, like in the past like couple days and everything for different reasons and for podcasts because we're celebrating launch and you know running errands, getting this situated.
But that was like work related. So
it was work related, but it was still like we weren't like it was like other times we were meeting up without having to record, if that makes sense.
Because all the other times we've met each other
was literally just to record.
Yeah.
To record in my living room or in my
catch
room.
Up.
Yeah, we would catch up and like, you know, like just kiki and just like, you know.
This is what the chart looks like.
Ultimate consciousness. Oh, I feel like I've seen this in like a humanities course or like a psychology course or something in college at one point. Or it was a different pyramid, but I don't remember what it was. I think it was like a pyramid of like what, like ultimate like fulfillment or something or whatever. I don't even remember what the name of like the philosopher was or the psychologist was who came up with that, but it's very similar to something that I've seen in psychology classes before.
Okay. How what's something that you do that helps you with your mental health being in this space? This treacherous space, especially as a model. I could not imagine being a model. That's also, I love how I ask you questions and I just start talking. That's also something I was thinking about the other day. All of my friends are models.
Are they?
Literally all of my friends.
Oh,
if they're not in the creative industry, they're literally models.
Yeah, most of your girlfriends are all models. Yeah.
Do you know how like sometimes I'd be walking the shoots with these girls?
But even me, someone who is, I guess, on paper technically still a model, even though I don't really do shoots anymore as a model. Even me, like when I hang out with like friends who are models or other people who are mutual friends who are models, I'm just like, y'all are kind of intimidating to be next to right now.
It's not even intimidating to be next to, but there's so many times where like people would approach them and they invisible.
Yeah, you just don't exist anymore.
It's just like, oops.
I'll just be here. Like, you know that meme or that like GIF that you see on like through iMessage on Instagram or whatever, and it's like Homer Simpson hiding in the back of the bushes.
Yeah, it'd be one of
those. That's how I feel.
Okay, I'm gonna go then.
But your question.
Yes. What's something that you do that helps with your mental health? And I my whole side story is just to say that like there's a certain level of confidence that you need to have to be around these fucking models all the time.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I guess what helps me kind of just maintain a good headspace and like a healthy mental mindset being in the creative industry is just kind of, well, a lot of it definitely would be like just like having a few days to just literally reset and recharge. I feel like that's really important for a lot of creative people because a lot of us are expected by like friends, peers, and clients just basically like be like
on the clock
24/7, but also like just have all these ideas all the time. And like we're made of creative juices that are flowing constantly. And it's like, that's really not how it works at all.
I was literally thinking about that the other day. like, I didn't
like
realize...
we're not a machine. This is not a machine up here. I hope you guys know.
I didn't realize how much, like, not sustainable the lifestyle of being a creative was until obviously I started getting into it. But also talking to other people who are not in this industry, where I'll be like, yeah, like the other day I was on a shoot. It was like a 12-hour shoot. It was intense. They're like, did you eat? I'm like, I think. Like, and they're just
For
like,
real. Sometimes you be forgetting to eat on these shoots, and it's not good.
And they're just like, that does not sound okay.
Technically, it isn't.
And even like I know some hairstylists who've work in like New York Fashion Week and things like that, and they've literally told me like, as much as they love working in the fashion like side of it and like being backstage and these things like that, it's just not sustainable, especially if you're trying to have like a family and have like a stable life. There's literally nothing that's stable in this industry, which affects your mental health. Like,
I think
crazy.
that's one of the things that like almost like future wise like scares me about the fashion industry, that does have an effect on my mental health. It's like, because right now, like, I'm definitely at the point, like at the beginning point of my career. I wouldn't say that I'm at my peak, but I'm like getting there kind of thing. And I feel like there's obviously more for me to do and more for me to experience, but I'm also not getting any younger. And I like hear all these stories about like these whatever. I know we've had this conversation before, but I hear all these stories like of real people that I have met who, you know, like have basically done like all their career stuff and like all their traveling and all their super big gigs, like whether they're buyers or stylists or creative directors, whatever, in like their 20s. And then by the time that they hit like 30, they just sort of really slow down or put a pause on everything and then just settle, and then they have their family, their kids, whatever, all that. And then I hear those stories and I think about that and I'm like, you do that, but like in between that time where like you're doing the traveling, you're doing like the whole, like you're in your bag basically, where do you have the time to like meet someone when that happens? Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like the math doesn't math to me in my brain. But like, again, like that's not something that like scares me to the point where like it, like you can't have both, because you can win at life completely and have it all, I feel. But also I don't ever want to get to a point where my entire identity and my entire being is my career and my career only, you know? Because like I definitely do want to be known and be happy and fulfilled with other things other than my line of work. And that's not like my work is everything to me right now. Well, not everything, but it's like, it's a lot for me right now. And I do like it, I enjoy it. It brings me a lot of joy and I'm very passionate about it, but it's not the only thing that like keeps me going or like the one thing that makes me happy, you know? So what?
We're so different. It's actually insane. Every time you talk, I'm like, oh, can't relate.
Because like I'm like a big like, well, how would you describe me in that sense? Because I'm a big like,
you're a lover girl.
Yeah.
Like, goddamn, Jesus Christ, this girl's like, I feel like I was talking to you? No, I was not talking to you about this. But I've never had those like fantasies of like, oh, I'm gonna be married at this age and I'm gonna have this amount of kids. Never.
Okay.
But I totally was like, oh, I'm gonna be on sets, done people like that. I could see completely.
And here's the thing, though. I've had both of those fantasies. I've had both of those fantasies.
Can't relate.
I've had both those fantasies because until I really knew what I wanted to do completely for work and like really settle on styling / creative direction, I like knew that I wanted to work in the fashion industry and like, you know, like I had all these big goals and like these big dreams and plans, but also like that within the mix of, you know, wanting to settle and be a mom and be a wife and be an entrepreneur. Like I still want the whole package like for myself eventually, you know what I mean? Because like I just like we live in very modern times, obviously, and like to a point where like we've literally seen examples of women who can have it all, and I feel like why couldn't that be me? You know?
It's not that I don't want those things, not at all. It's just like it's never been something that I
that you look forward to.
Yeah, because me, like, when I knew I was like, I want to work in the fashion industry, I was in fucking 8th grade looking on Facebook and online to find fashion shows that I could volunteer into, okay? Because I was like, this is what I want to do and this is what I'm gonna do, right? So it's like, it's not that I don't have that desire, it's just like, I'm like, it can wait.
It's in the back of your head.
It's like, it can wait. But this, for now, I feel like, especially when you're younger, considering how unstable this lifestyle is, like, of just being in this industry, it's almost like you kind of have to, like, start now. You know what I mean?
You do.
And it's not to say that you can't be older and start. Absolutely not.
You can. If that's your steez, and if you don't ever, like, see yourself, like, being, you know, settling with a partner or wanting to have kids and stuff, like, if that's the life that you want to live, like, by all means, do it. I see a lot of people do it.
I think what I'm saying is that, like, with the way that this career is so unstable, it is advantageous to, like, put all your focus and for it to be, like, the center of literally like right now. Yeah. Obviously, there are people who transition or they go into that career or that field later on, which is totally fine. But for me, it was just like, I'm not gonna, because, like, my parents were like, oh, you should go to, like, school for teaching or nursing. I'm like, first of all, I cannot stand kids like that. Like, I love kids. I could
never ever picture you as a teacher.
But can you imagine me going to school every morning from 9 to fucking 4:30 p.m. with these kids? Are you insane? That's actually madness.
These children are gonna go home crying. That's the thing.
Kids love me and I love kids.
Okay.
But it's only, like, once a few months for, like, 5 hours max. Like, I'm not doing that shit for every single day of my life.
I want to say that I'm the same way, but at the same time, like, I really do, like, love kids. Like, they bring me so much joy. But I can only, like, for right now, at the time that I'm at in my life, the point that I'm at in my life, I can only take them in certain doses or, like, certain amounts. Because I've worked in daycares before, and I've obviously grown up with a lot of younger kids in my immediate family. So, like, I've been around them my whole life. Which kind of forced me to be a natural, like, nurturer in a way with children. So for that reason, I obviously see myself having kids and being good with kids. And I know that I am good with them now and that I will be later. But, like, not me literally making a whole fucking, like, a profile being like, so if you're
looking
available
for
someone's gonna be a great wife and a great mom, you know, my at is no. But yeah, like, I know that that's all, like, that's the thing. I'm not at a point in my life where I'm stressing about those things in particular, because I know that it, one way or another, it's going to happen. Like, I have no doubt in my mind that I will be a mom. I will be a wife, whatever. Well, maybe not a wife, but a mom for sure. One way or another, I'm having kids. I don't care.
Okay.
But, like, I know that I will have that, like, traditional, like, you know, portion of my adult life. Like, it'll come, you know what I mean? Like, in its own timing. So I'm more so focused / stressed about the career portion of things, because that's something that, like, it absolutely is in my full control for the most part. Whereas, like, the exterior stuff, that's not in your control. That's really just, like, whatever happens.
What's something that you fear about, like, what's one of your fears concerning your career? Why do I always put you on the spot?
I don't know. I should be asking you these questions. I feel like one of my fears about where I'm going to be at in my career is that I like, my biggest fear is, like, I don't want to get to, like, age 40 and look back and be like, damn, like, I don't think I did enough. Or, like, I'm not where I told myself that I wanted to be at when I was 20. That's my biggest fear, is, like, not saying yes to enough things and not pushing myself to get as many opportunities as I can. Because, like, I have a clear idea of where I want to be at career-wise by the time that I turn 40. And I'm very determined to get to that point. But my biggest fear is that something somehow is going to, like, derail that whole path, or, like, block it to where it won't happen by the time that I want it to, you know? But then again, like, I can't, that's the thing, is like, I can't create myself a specific plan that has a timeline on it, because everything happens when it's meant to happen. So like, let's say I don't get to the point where I want to be at when I'm 40. Maybe it's because it's meant to happen when I'm 45 or when I'm 50, or maybe it's supposed to happen earlier when I'm 30. I don't know. I'm not going to know until I get there, you know? But I think it's just like, my biggest fear regarding my career is getting to a certain point when I've reached like pretty much my whole, or I don't want to say my peak, but like my prime, like, adult life, and feel like I missed out, or like I should have done more, or like have regrets, essentially. That I never want to get to that point ever. What are some what's a fear of yours in your career?
You're gonna hate my answer. I
have no fears.
I was literally gonna say that.
Get this girl off the podcast, man. I can't.
Okay, the reason why I say this, for one, I don't believe in regrets. Because everything that you do is based on how you feeling in that moment. So I don't believe in regrets. If ever you said something to me like, Bernie, like, your eyes cricket, and I was like, why would you say that? That hurt my feeling. That's just a random example, okay? And you're like, why would you say that? That hurt my... And I was like, why would you say that? That hurts my feelings. You'd be like, you know what? I apologize. I regret it. Like, you saying that. I'd be like, no, you didn't regret it. You can apologize. You don't regret it because you said that, and that's how you were feeling in that moment, right? So...
I can't relate. I definitely be having regrets. Not in relation to my career, but in relation to other things. Personal life-wise, yes, I do have regrets.
But, like, you were doing those things because that's how you felt, and that's what you thought was wrong, right?
Ma'am.
And if you didn't, that means you were not being true to yourself.
Oh, there were definitely times where I wasn't being true to myself.
Then you were like, I don't think I should regret the things that I do that were true to myself, is what I'm saying, right?
Okay.
It's not to say that, like, there's certain things that I don't look back and I'm like, maybe I should have done something differently. But when I feel like that, it's because I was not being true to myself, right? So that's why I don't believe in regrets. So as long as I'm being true to myself, I will not regret anything that I've done in my life because I was true to where I was at that moment. Okay. For one.
So that being said, you don't have any fear for your careers when it comes up, or like in the future.
I'm explaining why.
Okay.
You know, it's if you listen to the Imposter Syndrome podcast, you know that I'm in my Kanye bag, which means that I'm trying to be as cocky as Kanye, if not more.
She truly believes that, or she's trying to truly believe that she is the shit. And I think she is.
Thank you.
But
you as well.
Thanks. I'll get there eventually.
So there's that. And then when it comes to the fear portion of things, I feel like it's almost counterproductive to fear for my future and where I'm going to be, and also manifest this life that I want.
True, because fear and manifestation shouldn't really go hand in hand.
Do you know what I mean?
You're
and
right
I think
that.
The things that I do, the things that I create,
pondering, thinking,
the things that I do, the things that I create are very intentional, and I love what I do. I love myself when I do it. I love the people that I do it with. And I feel like when you're vibrating in that frequency, there shouldn't be fear. Because the opposite of love is fear. I'm not going to get into the whole crystal fucking spiritual bitch shit. But...
Damn. That was a lot.
Yeah.
The opposite of love is fear.
Yes. So and all of our decisions and the things that we feel come from these two frequencies, right? Yeah. And I'm consciously making a decision to not make decisions out of fear rather than love. It doesn't mean that I don't necessarily... I generally cannot think of anything that I'm quote-unquote worried about in terms of my career. Obviously, I have moments where I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Like, should I go back to school? Blah, 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 blah. All these things. It's not to say that it doesn't happen, but it's just to say that I'm making a decision to not operate at a place of fear. Yeah. And rather operate in a place of love. So far, it's been doing me well. I feel like, honestly, if I was operating in a place of fear, I wouldn't be like, let's make this podcast. Like, I don't think I would be like that because I think just naturally I know you don't like when I say this, but I think naturally I'm a pretty shy person. And I think it requires a lot of like...
I believe you to a certain extent when you say that. But also, I haven't witnessed you interacting with people knew people enough to see if you're really like, if you're
My God.
actually shy. But I feel like it also depends on the people that you've talked to. Because like with me, you weren't shy at all. But also like, we've already talked about this. Like when we met, like it was like, we've already met before.
Yeah.
Like
We've met in a past life.
In a past life, for sure. Like definitely one way or another. I don't know. It was just, again though, like that in circumstances like that, it was like too easy. So like there was no room to be shy.
Yeah.
But I've also never, I think that's why to me when you say that you're a shy person, I'm like,
Oh my God.
I can't even wrap my head around that.
When I was a kid, I had this like core memory. When I was a kid, when I moved to Ottawa from Gatineau, and it was like my first day of school, I see like all these kids mingle, and I was like a 6th grader, so it's like everyone knew each other, everyone grew up with each other. And my parents were trying to push me to like go
Were
talk
you the
to
kid
kids,
that would hide behind your mom's legs?
No. I was just like, I was just not talking. Like, I was just like...
disengaging.
Yo, disassociating. Shout out to Eddie. But yeah, so I feel like I've gotten better, obviously, in being more open and stuff. But like, I feel like sometimes there's still that little kid of like... And sometimes I'm in a room and I have that same feeling and I have that core memory of me just being like... And then my parents be like... And then making fun of me because I was not talking to anyone. They're like, oh my God, you're so shy. Like, how are you going to get through life? I sometimes have that core memory. So
I've had shy moments, but I don't think I've ever been a like actual shy person. Maybe people can attest to this differently for those like for maybe people who are listening who have known me for like years and years, but I've never really considered myself a shy person. But I'm also not like, at least post-COVID, I'm not the most like super outgoing person when I'm in public events. Like I don't really go to public events and like networking events or like just stuff like that in general where I'm in social settings, and I won't be that person who goes up and talks to everyone and like makes the first approach and makes the initiation. I just kind of I'm there and I welcome people with my energy to come to me.
You know what?
Like I accept that.
I literally went through like a whole thing of being like, if I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I hate that word, or like just someone who works for themselves and who's gonna have to get opportunities by themselves, I just cannot be that girl who's like qui font dans le background. I just can't. So I
can't
literally
be a behind the curtain bitch. That's just not how it works.
Although like I'm working behind the scenes, I literally had to.
But working behind the scenes doesn't mean that you can't have a little bit of limelight.
Yeah. But I had to train myself to like go up to people and to just like talk to people. And so far it's been doing me well. And also just saying yes to certain things, you know, because like even when Fitch was like, oh, you down to do the Black Creative Spotlight thing, I was just like,
really? I didn't know you were hesitating to do it.
I was like, but then I was like, yeah, I'll say yes. Because I wrote in my journal this year I should say yes to more things.
You did say that.
Yeah. So I'm saying yes to more things.
How's that working for you so far?
It's been good.
Okay.
I feel like it's also going back to the whole mental health thing. Like it's allowing me to check in with myself. Because if my first instinct is to say yes, I have to obviously check in with myself type thing. Because I feel like when you say no, it's kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like you're shutting it down, but if you say yes, you have to consider more things.
It's like you're blocking the opportunity. Yeah. But when you say yes, you have to take a step back and like
consider.
Reflect.
So it's not that I'm saying yes to everything. Yeah. But I'm just considering more things. Whereas before I would have been like, yeah, no, don't even ask me further. Like don't if ever you
don't
think
say
about,
more.
Yeah, I'm like, if ever you think about something like that, don't think of me again. You know. But now I'm more like, okay, sure. Or if I say no, I'll be like, maybe not this one, but maybe the next one. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So it's been fun. I guess before we wrap up, I don't know how long we've been talking.
Yeah, I don't know either. Mark, how long have we been recording right now?
Just a little bit more than an hour.
Oh,
shit.
Okay. I felt like we'd been here for 2 hours. I was like, this is gonna be a long one, but not bad. Not bad.
How has the joyous pandemic impacted your mental health, babes?
Girl,
talk to me.
It's been hard. I mean, the pandemic definitely, I want to say at the beginning, it definitely had a negative effect. And then throughout the past like basically 2 years now that we've been in this, it's had a negative and positive. Definitely started out negative because like I am a social butterfly at my core. I love interacting with people. I thrive off of being in a room with multiple different energies, and like my social battery gets charged when I'm around humans and I'm interacting. So the fact that we went into a whole lockdown and I couldn't see my friends and I was in a house with just my parents and my brother and my best friend, which, don't get me wrong, Kem, you're a great person. I adore you. But we got on each other's nerves at the beginning. So, and like that was like a transition for me too, because the pandemic hit and I had to literally transition from being away from home for the last 3 years and basically living independently and not answering to anyone to have to come back.
Oh my God. I never thought about that.
To have to come back and suddenly, like before I leave the house, I have to answer to all these questions. I have to clarify things again before I do anything. People are on my case again about certain instances, about where I'm going, who I'm going with, but even at my big age, But it's a thing. Parents, they're like this, Ooh, I'm grumbling. Jeez, I hope the mic didn't pick that up. I'm sorry, y'all. I need a snack right now. It's about that time of the day. But so it definitely affected me and my mental health negatively in the beginning because I felt like without socializing and without connecting with people, like, what was I doing? Like, I felt like so useless, And like the only thing that like kept me going like for the first like month or so was school, because I was still in school. But then again, with that transition of like literally finishing online and having to have had a virtual graduation ceremony, when me and the rest of my friends and my classmates were so looking forward to that big day, that presentation, because we had business concept presentations to do in front of industry professionals. And that had to end up being a pre-recorded thing that we showed on a Zoom. Like, anyway, it's in the past. It's in the past. That was a 2020 problem. We're now in 2022. But it was really hard to digest at the time. And like, I couldn't like celebrate my graduation the way that I wanted to because it was a milestone that I had hit. And I was like, I was so excited to finally celebrate it and like, feel content that like I've made it this far. I've done it. I've done the thing that I said that I wanted to do. Yeah. And I just feel like it was robbed from me in the way that it was supposed to be. God. So it was really rough. But then more positive things came out of the pandemic over time as things started to kind of get more normal. I learned a lot about myself in the pandemic. I learned that I actually like my alone time a lot more than I thought I did, or I've grown to be more comfortable with my own company, which is fun because now like, my idea of a fun weekend or a fun Saturday night or Friday night is not really the same as it used to be. And like, I'm okay with like either the going out option or the staying home and like I'm watching a good show or like a true crime documentary and I'm just by myself, like kind of thing. Like I can be happy with both now. Yeah. And I definitely learned a lot about myself, and I feel like I had a lot of growth in the last 2 years because so many things, like I had a lot of firsts within the pandemic. First, like, how do I call it? Like, I guess big disappointment or whatever that came with like the not having a conventional like graduation, and also the first time that I really had to like force myself to like really sit and be with myself and with my thoughts. First when it came to actually taking the time to basically, and this is where the positive impacts start to come in, but first moments where I actually took the time to properly basically force myself into deciding like, okay, what do you want to do with your craft now that you're done school? Like, this is now the time that you have to take styling seriously, because if not now, then when are you going to do it? So that was definitely a positive impact for sure. First lessons when it came to personal life, my first relationship happened in the pandemic. And that was definitely like an experience that I don't regret. And it was a very like humbling / like I learned a lot.
Yo, this humbling thing is actually triggering me. I don't want to be humbled.
No, but I learned a lot, and it was like in the grand scheme of things, it was a positive experience to live, even if it wasn't like super long. Yeah. But like I don't regret like from start to end everything that happened in between. Like it was a great thing for me to go through, because it was basically like you had the positive of experiencing your first love, but then also experiencing your first heartbreak. So like goes both ways in a sense. Love it, girl. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is, honestly. But yeah, like I learned a lot about myself, because that was like the first time that I tapped into like not only what am I, because I knew what I was like as a person and like as an individual, and how I love on me and how I care for me. But I had no idea until then, like, what am I like as a girlfriend to someone else? So that was like, whoa, like, okay, now we know. Now we know what you're like. And it was surprising, but not to like a really like shocking extent, because like I knew that I was the type of person who was very like giving. I guess you could say.
Girl. Jesus Christ.
I knew that I was a very giving person, that I had a lot of love to give.
Mark is laughing.
Oh God. I knew that I was a very giving person, and I was very like that I had a lot of love to give. And one thing that like stuck with me in general, that was something that my ex had like said repeatedly, was that I had a heart of gold, and that it was very big. So
continue.
I know he's not listening to this, so like I'm fine to talk about it.
I'm gonna send him a link.
No. But yeah, that was something that he had repeated like quite a bit throughout the relationship, and like I didn't like really like digest it or like take into account or fully believe it at the time, but now like that it's been a while since that's ended, and that I've like basically relearned to like love myself again after a heartbreak situation, it like he's absolutely right. He's very correct. I know that I'm very aware that I have a heart of gold, and like he was projecting truth. Like that's just what it was.
Hallelujah.
I'm very aware that I have a big heart, and I definitely like I have a lot of love to give all the time, and I'm very caring and generous with the people that I do care about. And sometimes that can definitely get me into trouble, or like just put me in situations that I get involved with different relationships or different people, and this is not like romantic wise, but like just different interactions and different people where I like, because I'm so caring and because I have such a big heart, like it'll be taken advantage of, or it'll be taken for granted. So that's where it like gets like, you know. But I guess like other ways that the pandemic like affected my mental health besides that was just like, I'll go into the more positive experiences, but definitely like just pushing myself into, like, it pushed me to network a lot more, to meet a lot more people. Like if it weren't for the pandemic, I don't think that I would have connected with as many creatives, which is insane.
We connected through the pandemic too.
We connected through the pandemic. I connected through everyone that you and I know mutually. I connected with Ryan. I connected with like different models, like Ryan, Clara, Ziggy, Fitch, like a lot of people. And I don't think that I would have necessarily done that had the pandemic not hit, because had the pandemic not been a thing, technically I would not be in Ottawa right now.
Yeah.
I'd still be in Montreal, and I'd probably be working in like, maybe not interning anymore, but I would be working like for a head office somewhere full time at the moment, whether it be in marketing or it be in creative or whatnot. But I would definitely not be freelancing the way that I am now.
Yeah.
So like at the beginning, it was hard to digest, because I wasn't like 2020. I was definitely in a different mindset, and I was just kind of like, damn, like the pandemic like robbed me of everything that I was supposed to do and that I was meant to do. But now that I'm at the point where I'm at now, and we're 2 years in, and everything that's happened since then, I'm like, okay, not everything that I expected to happen at that time happened, but I'm also very glad that there was a silver lining to this whole situation, and had the pandemic not been a thing, like this podcast might not have actually been alive or existed at all. So I think that in the grand scheme of things, the pandemic has affected my mental health in a bittersweet way. But obviously, again, kind of like the whole thing in general, I feel like we can't get, well, I hope not. I feel like it can't get worse from here.
Lord.
Not us potentially being in a World War III.
Jesus.
But I feel like it can't really completely get worse from here because we're kind of like finding our way out of it. But I feel like for me in general, like now that we've lived through it in like the hardest parts of it, mentally and just spiritually, like it can really go up from here for me personally. How do you feel that the pandemic has affected your mental health?
It has not affected that much.
Girl, please spare me.
Could you imagine?
Oh my God. It really didn't change anything for me at all, actually.
I think it's affected me a lot. Okay, because when the whole pandemic was happening, I was living in my own world. And I remember sitting in the bus, and this woman was just like, girl, like, you should really, like, wear a mask. And that was before the mask mandates, okay?
Oh, like, so before June of 2020. Because that's when it started being enforced.
Yeah, that was before June. It was like in March or whatever. Mm-hmm. She's like, you should really like either have a mask on or like have like a scarf covering your and I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? I was so confused. I had no idea what the hell was going on. Mm-hmm. And then I think like a week later, 2 weeks later, boom, the whole world shut down. I was like, what the fuck? But I was really relieved when it happened. That sounds very selfish, which it is.
Really?
But I was so relieved because I was doing so much. Like, I was working. I was also starting to do some creative direction stuff and, like, helping with brands and, like, photo shoots and stuff. And, like, right before the pandemic, I did, like, a campaign with Anai Arts, their winter campaign. Mm-hmm. And then we also did a fashion show, her and this other brand called... not me having a blank. Yes, so her and this other brand. We did a fashion show in February, and then literally like a couple of weeks later, boom, the whole world shut down. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Yeah. So I was relieved because I was doing so many things, and I was in school, and it
was like a break for you almost.
Yeah, and oh my God, hibernated. I literally slept so much. It was insane. And that's when I realized I was just like, oh my God, either I'm fucking depressed or this life that I was living was just not sustainable. Like I was literally killing myself to, you know, be in school and handing my assignments on time and things like that. And then also trying to build my portfolio.
Have a social life.
You know, I literally didn't have a social life. I didn't have time. Literally. So I just crashed and burned. Okay. It was literally me. And then I think I just went through like this weird, like, and I'm more of an introvert person. So I'm like totally okay with being by myself and stuff. But I had this like weird, like low energy thing going on. And I don't know if it was because it was just like how the world was and like everyone was kind of like going through it really because of everything that was going on, or literally, was it just
everyone
like
one way or another got affected by the whole thing,
or was it just like more internal? But that's kind of how when I had like hella like spiritual awakenings, which was treacherous.
Oddly enough, like the pandemic in general brought like my connect, because like I guess like for different people, like your spiritual connection or like what your beliefs are different. Everyone's not gonna have the same thing. But the pandemic for me almost like brought me closer to my spiritual connection with God in general, or my personal relationship with God. Like I found myself praying a lot more and like talking to him a lot more in a way, or just feeling more in tuned with that side of me, which is something that I had like pretty much like I always pushed it off, or I felt like I had no time, where I ignored it or just didn't address it because I had a lot going on with school and just my life before.
Yeah, so there was a lot of unlearning to do, and I had like a lot of like realization and epiphany about just some of the things that I believed in, and that just like were just like not working, because all you had to do was fucking think, you know what I mean? And I think like it really brought me closer with myself, and just like having a better mindset in general, and just having to build like relationships in ways that were not like superficial, because it's not like you, because I feel like a lot of people,
you did start romanticizing your relationships in the pandemic.
you know, so there's just been like a lot of just me trying to find better ways to communicate, either if it's through my craft or is it you know through just like with my relationships in general. Like I started writing letters to my friends and myself.
I got a letter, guys. It was really cute. I got it the other day. Oh my god. I almost started crying when I read it, because I was like, bitch. You're not supposed to be loving on me like this.
I'm dead. But yeah, I think just in general, there's just been a lot of unlearning for me, and just like shifting of like mindset, because although I always knew that I wanted to be in the fashion industry or just in the creative industry, I never necessarily like felt as though it was necessarily possible. And so it was like kind of weird, because it's like I want to do this, but I don't necessarily believe that I can,
imposter
or that
syndrome.
I will. And I think like this time of like being able to think and stuff just allowed me to realize that, one, I didn't actually believe in myself at all. And it's obviously taking me like you know, the time of the pandemic until now, which has been like 2 years, to just be like, yeah,
that's
look
so
at me
crazy to think that we've literally been in this mess for 2 years.
Yes. And also, just like you, I lived one of my biggest disappointments. It was not relationship related. It was more so like me. I wanted to.
Oh, my biggest disappointment was school, not the relationship. Let's backtrack.
My bad. I misunderstood.
Let's just correct that. My biggest disappointment, clarification, was not being able to graduate properly, not
okay.
The relationship.
But yeah, I also lived one of my biggest disappointments, which it's like it's getting rectified in the fall. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So yeah, it's just been like
Stay tuned.
It's just been like a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah.
And I think what it's brought me is just like a lot more confident in my craft and myself, and just having a different
100%.
perception of it. Because I think before I never saw like fashion as art, and I feel like I've kind of shifted that, what that means and what that looks like, and I have a different perception of what art is even, and what creating is, and what that looks like.
You looked at it more from a business perspective rather than a creative perspective for a while.
I think so. I think like I don't really know. I think I probably have to like dissect it more, but I think like especially with styling, because I really got into it like you, freelancing in 2020. There's been a lot of like space for healing, because for me like styling has been such a like good space to heal my inner child and to explore like things that I never necessarily could explore as a child, and to like put people in like clothes that like I think me as a kid would like love to fucking wear. So it's like there's that aspect too that's really fun. So I think like with the work that I've been doing, just more focus on my career, it's really allowed me to like heal and to have just a different perception. So I think like what the pandemic has brought me is a lot of healing, which is kind of crazy to think, because it's been so detrimental for so many other people, and obviously it's been detrimental to me as well, but just in different ways.
Okay, so if you had to describe in like, or if you had to give one word for what the pandemic has brought you, like mental health wise, like, you know, just the whole grand scheme of things, what's one word that you would describe as like your, like who you've become and who you've been from beginning to pandemic till now? Like, what's a word to describe that whole transition?
I don't know if there's like a word, maybe like
a sentence.
Okay. I think I'd say autopilot shifting into mindfulness.
Okay. I think that's a good way to describe it. I feel like for me, it would be Self-reflection transitioning into growth.
Ooh.
Definitely, that would be the best way that would describe my pandemic experience from beginning to now and, furthermore.
Beyond.
Yeah. Well, that being said, I think that we've gone on long enough, but obviously this is now the point where we ask you guys, how has the creative industry, how has the fashion industry, how has the pandemic as a whole
impacted you
and your mental health? Talk to us, let us know in the show notes, or not the show notes, but the comments of this podcast, wherever you're listening to this, since this is available on YouTube. If you didn't watch the video version and you're listening to the audio version, watch the video version.
Yeah.
It's a lot more entertaining. And
do both.
Also, we look really cute on the video version, so you might as well just enjoy it while you can. But considering this is bonus episode and this is a different approach that we've taken compared to the rest of this season,
we'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah, what do you guys think of the video option as well? Are we feeling it? And also, is this something that you guys would like to see for season 2? Because if so, we might have something up our sleeve.
We'll make it happen.
And we'll make it happen if you really want it. Only if you want it.
With that being said, we also want to remind you to go visit Lens Studio for any creative projects. This beautiful space is by them.
Yes, this beautiful podcast room that we are sitting in right now. It is lovely. Whatever podcast, whatever genre, feel free to literally contact them and record anything that you want.
Yeah, and you can talk Mark's ears off.
Yeah. You can talk the guy's ear off. I don't think that he'll necessarily enjoy everyone as much as he's enjoying us right now. But you can try.
Yeah. We also have a photography space. Different rooms.
Yeah.
If you've never been here, what the fuck are you doing?
Seriously.
Jesus Christ.
If there's a studio that you need to be at, it's this one.
Yes.
Literally, like I said at the beginning, all your needs, they can be definitely done here creatively. If you need family photos, newborn shoot for your baby, if you need team photos,
music videos, whatever it is, all of they provide it.
Or if you're a fashion blogger or a content creator and you need a studio space to elevate your content, this is the spot to go to. This is the spot.
Well. We'll have obviously their socials and
all their links
and all the stuff in the show notes. Also, renewed. If you like the fits,
there is more like this.
Yes.
And then some. So we are going to link her for sure.
Yes, all her socials. It's a Black-owned, vintage, thrifted curator.
The best way that I can describe her is like she's basically like a mobile like garde-robe of just like vintage.
A mobile closet.
A mobile closet of vintage great finds.
Yes, and thrifted finds. So if you're into that, she also does quite a few pop-ups in the city as well. Like 613 Thrift and others. So we'll definitely link her information so you can keep be in the loop and meet her and also shop the stuff that she has. With that being said,
now is where we plug ourselves at this point.
Well, we'll have the little audio at the end.
That's true. It's in the outro. But with that being said, thank you guys for listening. And we are definitely looking forward to literally seeing you and for you to be watching us very soon.